Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voice of English. This is the place where you can learn English by listening and practicing every day. Each day, we share simple lessons and helpful tips to help you speak English better and with confidence. So get ready to listen, learn, and speak English naturally.
In today's lesson, you're going to improve not just your English speaking skills, but also your ability to listen and understand English used in real daily life. We're focusing on one of the most practical and useful topics you can learn: daily life English phrases for speaking fluently. These are the kinds of phrases you hear people using every day, in conversations, at work, at school, while shopping, or even when relaxing with friends and family. When you learn to use these phrases correctly, your English begins to sound more natural and fluent. You stop translating in your head and start speaking smoothly and confidently. By the end of this video, you'll have dozens of new phrases added to your English memory, and you'll know exactly how to use them in everyday situations. I'll also be giving you practice exercises to make sure you're not just listening, but actually learning how to speak better. So, if you're ready to boost your fluency and sound more like a native speaker, you're in the right place. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a daily English learning episode. All right then, grab your pen and notebook. Let's get started. Speaking fluent English isn't about knowing complicated grammar or memorizing long vocabulary lists. It's about being able to use simple and natural expressions that fit into daily conversations. These are the phrases native speakers use without thinking, phrases that make interactions smooth, friendly, and confident. You hear them in cafes, on phone calls, in offices, or even at the grocery store. When you start using these phrases regularly, you'll notice that your conversations begin to flow naturally. You won't have to pause or translate in your mind. You'll respond with confidence and ease, just like someone who has been speaking English for years. Take the phrase, "What's up?" for example. It's not really a question that needs a detailed answer. It's just a casual greeting between friends. You might hear someone say this when they meet you after work, or when you pick up the phone. A simple reply like, "Not much, just relaxing," or "Just got home," is enough to keep the conversation going. Sometimes people even respond with a short, "Hey," or "All good." It's not about the words. It's about the feeling, a friendly way to connect. Another common greeting is, "How's it going?" This is a little more polite, but still relaxed. You might hear it from a colleague, a neighbor, or someone you haven't seen in a while. A natural response would be something like, "Pretty good, how about you?" Or, "It's going well, thanks." These phrases help open up conversations in a friendly way, without sounding too formal or too cold. Now imagine you're on a phone call, and someone asks you for some information. You need a moment to look it up. Instead of staying silent or saying "wait," which can sound a little harsh, you might say "just a second" or "give me a moment." These phrases are gentle, polite, and show that you're listening while also taking time to respond. They are great tools to manage the flow of conversation without sounding abrupt. If someone asks for your opinion, and you want to sound thoughtful but not too strong, you can say, "I think so," or "in my opinion." These expressions help you share your thoughts in a polite and balanced way. For instance, if someone says they think the meeting will end early today, you might say something like, "Yeah, I think so too." Everyone looks ready to wrap up. If you're not sure, you could say "I guess" or "maybe," which shows a softer tone without sounding uninterested. Sometimes in conversations, You just need to show that you understand what the other person is saying. Short phrases like, I see, or that makes sense, are very useful for this. Imagine someone explains why they couldn't attend the event. Maybe they were feeling sick or had a last-minute emergency. You don't need to ask more questions. You can just say, I see, I hope everything's okay now, or that makes sense, things happen. These responses are short, but they show empathy and understanding. Now think about when someone makes a suggestion. Maybe they say, let's meet at the coffee shop around 4. A natural way to agree would be to say, sounds good. You don't need a full sentence like, yes, that's a good idea. Just a simple, sounds good, or that works for me, is enough. These expressions show that you're comfortable and in agreement, and they keep the conversation going in a natural direction. Let's walk through a little story to practice some of these phrases. You're planning to meet a friend after work. You send a message asking if 5 p.m. is still okay. The friend replies that they're running a little late and asks if 6 would be better. You say, sounds good. Just let me know when you're on your way. A few minutes later, they reply, saying they're leaving now. You respond, cool, see you soon. Simple, clear, and fluent. These kinds of short, friendly exchanges happen every day. And the more you practice them, the more natural they will become. Try repeating these small conversations out loud. You could even write them down and change the details to fit your own day. For example, instead of meeting at 5, you could change it to 2 p.m. at a library. Instead of a friend, imagine it's a coworker. Practicing in this way makes your brain ready to use the phrases when you actually need them. Let's keep going with more phrases that will help you in daily life. One of the most common expressions you'll hear is, let me know. You use this when you want someone to tell you something later. Maybe you're not sure when they'll arrive, so you say, let me know when you get here. Or maybe you're helping someone with a task, and you say, let me know if you need anything. It's a very polite and open way to keep communication going. Another very useful phrase is, keep me posted. This means to keep someone updated. You can use it when working on a project, planning an event, or waiting for news. For instance, someone tells you they're applying for a new job. You can say, that's great. Keep me posted. It shows that you care and that you want to hear what happens next. Now consider the times when you're running behind schedule. Instead of saying I'm late, which can sound rushed, it's more natural to say I'm running late. This phrase is often used to explain why you won't be on time. Maybe you're stuck in traffic or something unexpected happened. You might send a quick message saying, hey, I'm running a bit late. I'll be there in 10 minutes. It's polite, clear, and very commonly used. Sometimes plans change, and when that happens, you'll want to use a phrase like, can we reschedule? It's better than just canceling or saying no. It shows respect for the other person's time. You can say, sorry, something came up. Can we reschedule for tomorrow? This kind of sentence keeps the door open for future communication and helps you sound more responsible and polite. Here's another small story for practice. Imagine you're texting a friend to confirm your lunch plans. You ask if they're still free at 1. They reply, saying something unexpected came up, and ask if you can meet later. You respond, sure, no problem. Let me know what time works for you. They say maybe around 3. You answer, that works for me. Just keep me posted if anything changes. This conversation is smooth, friendly, and natural, and it all uses common daily phrases that you can practice and make your own. Remember, fluent English doesn't mean perfect grammar. It means being able to express yourself clearly in real situations. The more you repeat and reuse these phrases in your own life, the faster they become part of your natural speech. Whether you're texting, calling, or meeting someone face to face, these are the small building blocks of fluency. Use them, practice them, and most importantly, speak them out loud as often as you can. In many conversations, especially at work or in social situations, you'll often find yourself needing to politely ask for something instead of directly saying what you want, which can sometimes sound too direct or even rude. You can use softer and more natural phrases. One of the most common ones is, "Would you mind?" This phrase makes any request sound more polite. For example, if you're in a meeting and need someone to close the window, instead of saying "close the window," you could say, "Would you mind closing the window?" It sounds much friendlier and shows that you respect the other person's comfort. You can also use "could you please" in similar situations. For example, "Could you please send me the report by tomorrow?" Or, "Could you please lower your voice?" These are useful in both professional and casual settings. The key to sounding fluent is not only what you say, but how you say it. Using polite and familiar phrases makes communication smoother and more natural. There are also many phrases you can use when giving your opinion without sounding too strong or pushy. You can say, "It seems to me," or "I feel like," which help express your thoughts in a way that invites conversation instead of shutting it down. For example, if someone is choosing a restaurant and asks for your thoughts, you can say, "It seems to me that the Italian place would be a good choice," or "I feel like trying something different today." These expressions are gentle and allow room for others to share their opinions as well. Let's imagine a short conversation using some of these phrases. You're in an office and a coworker is playing music a little too loudly. Instead of saying, "Turn that off," you ask politely, "Would you mind turning the music down a little?" Your coworker smiles and says, "Oh, sure, no problem." Later in the day, you're discussing ideas for a group project. Someone asks what you think, and you reply, "It seems to me that we should focus on the main points first, then add the extra details later." This exchange flows easily and sounds both respectful and fluent. Another helpful set of phrases involves offering help or asking if someone needs anything. When someone seems busy or stressed, you can ask, "Do you need a hand?" Or, "Can I help you with that?" These are friendly ways to show you care. If someone offers help to you and you want to accept, you can say, "That would be great," or "I'd really appreciate that." If you want to say no in a polite way, you can say, "Thanks, but I've got it," or "I think I can manage." Sometimes you'll need to ask someone to wait. Instead of saying, "Wait," which can sound a bit rude, you can use "hold on a second" or "just a minute." These phrases are more natural and friendly. For example, if someone asks a question and you need time to think, you can say, "Just a second, let me check." Or, "Hold on, I'm looking for it." These expressions help you stay in control of the conversation without sounding impolite. Now let's look at another scenario to practice. You're at the grocery store and someone asks where they can find the milk. You're not sure, so you say, "Hold on, I think it's in the back aisle." Then, they thank you and say they're new in town. You reply, "If you need a hand finding anything else, just let me know." This type of conversation is very typical in everyday life, and the more you practice it, the more comfortable you'll feel. Another important skill is knowing how to express agreement and disagreement naturally. When you agree with someone, you don't always have to say "yes" or "I agree." You can say "exactly," "that's true," or "I know," right? These are short, casual responses that show you're listening and that you understand. If someone says, "It's really hot today," you can respond, "I know, right? It feels like summer already." This type of back and forth is what keeps conversations lively and natural. When you don't agree, you can still sound polite by using phrases like, "I see what you mean, but," or, "That's a good point, however." These allow you to share a different opinion without sounding rude. For example, if someone says they think the project deadline is too soon, you might say, "I see what you mean, but I think if we stay focused, we can finish it." This keeps the conversation respectful and helps you sound confident in your speaking. Sometimes you need to end a conversation, and for that, there are also natural ways to do it. Instead of saying, "I'm leaving," or just walking away, you can say, "Anyway, I should get going," or, "It was nice talking to you." These are very common ways to end a chat without sounding cold or abrupt. You can also say, "Talk to you later," or "Catch you later" with friends. These are friendly and casual ways to say goodbye. Here's another mini practice conversation. You're talking to a friend about weekend plans. They say, "I might go hiking if the weather's good." You say, "That sounds great. I was thinking about going to the beach." They say, "Yeah, but I don't know if I'll have time." You respond, "I see what you mean. Weekends get busy." Then, after a few more minutes, you say, "Anyway, I should get going. It was nice catching up." This short interaction includes several natural phrases that you can use in your everyday speech. You'll also want to become comfortable with filler phrases, those little expressions that people use while thinking or pausing. Phrases like, "you know," "I mean," "actually," and "to be honest" help fill the space in conversations and give you a moment to think. They are very common in spoken English. For example, if you're explaining something, you might say, "So, it's not that hard once you get started." Or if someone asks what you think, you could say, "Actually, I think it's a great idea." These help make your speech sound more natural and less robotic. To build fluency, try practicing these phrases with daily situations in your life. Imagine you're making a phone call to schedule a doctor's appointment. You could say, "Hi, I'd like to make an appointment. Do you have anything available this week?" If they ask what the appointment is for, you might say, "It's just a general checkup." They say they have a slot on Friday at 10. You respond, "That works for me. Thanks a lot." After confirming, you say, "Okay, see you then. Bye." This whole interaction uses simple, clear English that you can practice again and again. Keep in mind, the more you expose yourself to natural conversations, the easier it will be to remember these phrases. Try listening to English podcasts, watching shows with subtitles, or even repeating sentences you hear around you. When you hear a phrase that sounds natural and easy, write it down and practice using it in your own sentences. For example, if you hear someone say, "I'm not sure yet, but I'll let you know," repeat it out loud and then try changing the subject. Say things like, "I'm not sure yet, but I'll let you know about dinner," or "I'll let you know if I can come to the party." These small daily practices make a big difference. They help your brain connect common English phrases to real-life situations. So, when you need them, they'll come to you naturally, without thinking too hard or translating in your head. That's the goal of fluency. Not perfection, just comfort, confidence, and clear communication. Another important part of daily English fluency is the ability to respond naturally in different situations. For example, when someone thanks you, instead of always saying, You're welcome. You can use other expressions like no problem, anytime, don't mention it, or it was nothing. These phrases make your English sound more relaxed and authentic. If someone says, "Thanks for helping me move," you could casually reply, "No problem at all, happy to help." These are small changes, but they make a big difference in sounding like a fluent speaker. In social situations, you might want to show interest or keep a conversation going. One simple way is to use phrases like, "Really? That's interesting. What happened next?" Or, "How did it go?" These are all small questions or comments that show you're listening and want to hear more. For instance, someone might say, "I tried sushi for the first time yesterday." A good natural response could be, "Really? How did you like it?" Or, "That's interesting. What kind did you try?" These are the kinds of phrases that create a friendly flow in everyday conversations. Let's go through a casual example between two coworkers. One of them says, "I had to take my dog to the vet yesterday." The other one replies, "Oh, really? Is everything okay?" The first person says, "Yeah, she just needed her shots." Then the response could be, "Glad to hear that. Pets are like family." This type of conversation might seem small, but it's exactly the kind that helps you become more comfortable and fluent in English. You're learning how to react and respond in a natural, caring way. Sometimes you'll need to express surprise, excitement, or even sympathy. Common everyday phrases for surprise include, "No way," "You're kidding," or "That's unbelievable." If a friend tells you they won a free trip, your natural reaction might be, "No way! That's amazing!" When something is sad or unfortunate, you can say, "I'm sorry to hear that," or "That's too bad." For example, if someone says they lost their job, a kind response would be, "I'm really sorry to hear that. If there's anything I can do, let me know." These expressions are useful in both formal and informal conversations. Let's try a practice conversation to reinforce that. Someone tells you, "I had a car accident last week." A caring response would be, "Oh no, are you okay?" Then they might say, "Yeah, just a few scratches, but the car needs repairs." You could follow up with, "That's tough. Hope it gets fixed soon." These types of emotional reactions help you connect better with people and speak more naturally in real-life situations. You'll also hear many casual expressions that don't always translate directly into other languages. These are called idiomatic phrases or casual slang. For example, when someone says, "I'm beat," they mean they're very tired. Or, "That's a piece of cake," meaning something is very easy. You don't need to memorize every idiom, but it's good to become familiar with the most common ones used in everyday English. For example, if a friend says, "I finished the whole report last night," you can say, "Wow, you were really on the ball." That means they were quick and efficient. To understand idioms better, you can listen to how they're used in shows, podcasts, or conversations, then repeat them in your own speech. Here's a short practice story using idioms. Imagine someone says, "I stayed up late finishing my homework, so I'm running on empty today." You reply, "I know the feeling. I had a long night too." They laugh and say, "Well, at least it's Friday. We're almost out of the woods." You say, "Exactly. Just hang in there a little longer." This quick exchange uses common idioms that sound natural and keep the tone friendly and informal. There are also many ways to talk about future plans or intentions. Instead of always using will, try using natural phrases like, "I'm planning to," "I'm thinking about," or "I might." For example, "I'm planning to visit my family next weekend," or I might go to the gym later. These forms are not only common, but they also show more flexible and fluent ways of expressing yourself. Let's say someone asks you what your weekend plans are. You can say, I'm thinking about going hiking if the weather's nice. Or, I might just relax at home. It's been a long week. These phrases let you speak about the future without sounding too formal. Here's another practice interaction to help reinforce these expressions. A classmate says, Do you want to join us for lunch tomorrow? You reply, I might. I'm planning to finish an assignment in the morning, but I should be free by noon. Your classmate says, Cool, we'll probably go around 1. You finish with, Sounds good. I'll let you know for sure in the morning. This flow is very typical in daily conversations, and using phrases like, I might, I'm planning to, and I'll let you know, adds a fluent touch to your speaking. Sometimes in life, things don't go as planned, and you might need to express disappointment or frustration. Instead of using strong or negative language, fluent speakers often use softer phrases. For example, instead of saying, I'm very angry, you could say, I'm a bit frustrated, or it didn't go the way I expected. These phrases sound more natural and are easier to say in daily conversations. Imagine someone says, I studied so hard but still didn't pass the test. A good way to respond is, That's disappointing, but don't give up. You'll get it next time. These moments are where empathy and natural language really come together. Let's imagine another everyday dialogue. A friend says, I missed my flight because the taxi was late. You respond, Oh no, that's so frustrating. Did they rebook you? They say, Yeah, but I have to wait 4 hours. You say, That's rough. Hopefully the time will pass quickly. These are normal phrases that make your conversations feel warm, supportive, and fluent. In friendly conversations, compliments and encouragement are also very important. You might want to say things like, You did a great job, that looks amazing, or You've improved a lot. These compliments help build relationships and are an important part of natural English. If someone shares their work with you or tells you about something they accomplished, responding with kindness helps you grow socially in English. Here's a practice scene. A coworker presents a finished project. You say, That looks amazing. You've really put in a lot of work. They smile and say, Thanks. I've been working on it all week. You continue, Well, it definitely paid off. Great job. These kinds of positive exchanges happen all the time in English-speaking environments, and using them naturally builds your fluency and confidence. Sometimes you'll need to ask for clarification or repetition if you didn't catch what someone said. Instead of just saying what or huh, which can sound a little rude, fluent speakers use phrases like, Sorry, could you say that again? Or, I didn't catch that. What did you say? These show that you're engaged in the conversation and want to understand clearly. Here's an example. Someone says something too quickly, and you respond, Sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat it? They say, Oh, I just said the meeting is at 3. Then you reply, Thanks. Got it. This kind of polite exchange is great to use at work, school, or anywhere else. Another great way to improve your fluency in English is by using natural expressions when you're making suggestions or giving advice. Instead of just saying, You should do this, native speakers often use softer, more conversational phrases like, Why don't you? Maybe you could? Or have you thought about? These sound friendlier and less direct, which is often preferred in casual conversations. For example, if someone is stressed about their exams, you might say, why don't you take a short break and go for a walk? Or, maybe you could try studying in shorter sessions with breaks. These are gentle ways to offer help without sounding bossy. Let's explore a dialogue using these types of expressions. One person says, "I've been feeling really tired lately." The other responds, "Have you thought about going to bed earlier?" They reply, "Yeah, but I have so much work to do." Then the response could be, "Maybe you could try organizing your tasks and setting a time limit." This kind of supportive language creates a friendly and helpful tone, which is ideal for everyday communication. When you want to agree with someone in conversation, instead of just saying, "Yes," try using expressions like "exactly," "that's right," "I agree," or "totally." These sound more involved and natural. For example, if someone says, "Learning a new language takes a lot of time," you can say, "Exactly," and "you need to practice regularly." This helps you connect better and show that you're actively participating in the conversation. Let's go through another short example. One person says, "Watching movies in English really helps." The other replies, "Totally." You hear real conversations and learn pronunciation. These expressions are simple, but powerful tools for natural fluency. When asking for opinions or starting a discussion, native speakers often use phrases like, "What do you think about?" "How do you feel about?" or "Have you ever thought about?" These questions invite others to share and help create engaging conversations. For instance, you might say, "What do you think about working remotely?" And the response could be, "I think it's convenient, but sometimes I miss talking to people face to face." You can then reply, "Yeah, I get that." The social part of office life is really important. This back and forth builds strong conversational flow. Now let's practice a real-life conversation with these kinds of expressions. Someone asks, "What do you think about learning English online?" You respond, "Honestly, I think it's really effective, especially with all the free resources available." They say, "Yeah, but sometimes I miss the structure of a classroom." You follow with, "That's true. Maybe a mix of both would work best." This dialogue shows how naturally you can share thoughts and keep a conversation going with opinion-based phrases. When you want to show interest or agreement with something someone says, use short replies like, "No doubt," "I see what you mean," or "That makes sense." These quick comments show that you're actively listening and engaged. For example, if a friend says, "It's hard to stay motivated sometimes," a good response would be, "I see what you mean. It happens to me too." These short reactions make your English feel more connected and fluent. You'll also want to learn how to end conversations politely. You can use phrases like, "It was great talking to you," "Catch you later," or "Let's talk again soon." These expressions are friendly and signal that the conversation is wrapping up in a positive way. For instance, if you're ending a call or meeting, you might say, "All right, I'll let you get back to your day. Talk soon." This helps you exit a conversation gracefully. Let's try a practice example. After chatting for a while, one person says, "I've got to head to a meeting now." The other replies, "No problem. It was great talking to you. Let's catch up later." This exchange is polite, clear, and keeps the relationship positive. Many English learners also want to sound polite and respectful, especially in professional settings. To do that, use modal verbs like could, would, and may. For example, instead of saying, "Give me that document," say, "Could you send me that document?" Or, Would you mind sharing that file with me? These phrases sound much more professional and are commonly used in the workplace. Here's a simple office-related dialogue for practice. One colleague says, "Could you help me with this report?" The other answers, "Sure, I'd be happy to." The first person follows up, "Great, I just need help with the last section." This respectful way of speaking is essential for building good relationships in professional environments. Sometimes you'll need to ask for help or offer help to others. Instead of using only the word help, you can use expressions like, "Do you need a hand?" "Can I give you a hand?" or "Let me know if you need anything." These are all very common in English-speaking countries and sound much friendlier. For instance, if you see someone struggling with heavy bags, you might say, "Do you need a hand with those?" or "Let me help you with that." These offers show kindness and make your English sound more natural. Now, let's go through a friendly interaction. Someone is carrying several boxes and says, "This is heavier than I thought." Another person says, "Let me give you a hand." The first person replies, "Thanks, I appreciate it." These simple lines help you build fluency through common social routines. One last thing that often improves fluency is learning how to start and continue small talk. Small talk may seem unimportant, but it's actually how many conversations begin. You can use phrases like, "Nice weather today, isn't it?" "Did you catch the game last night?" or "Busy day ahead?" These openers help you break the ice and start talking in any situation. For example, at a coffee shop, you might say, "This place is always busy in the mornings." And the person next to you might reply, "Yeah, they make great coffee. I come here every day." You then say, "Same here." It's a good way to start the day. These small exchanges are the first step to building confidence in speaking English fluently. Let's wrap up this part with another quick practice. Two people meet at the elevator. One says, "Long day?" The other replies, "Yeah, lots of meetings." "You?" And the first person says, "Same here. I'm ready for the weekend already." These small moments of conversation happen everywhere and help you use English comfortably in daily life. Another very effective way to improve your fluency is to master how to express preferences and opinions in different situations. In everyday English, people rarely use phrases like, "I like this," or "I don't like that" alone. Instead, they use expressions like, "I'm really into," "I'm not a big fan of," or "I'd rather." These phrases make your speech sound more natural and fluent. For instance, instead of saying, "I like music," you can say, "I'm really into jazz music these days," or "I'd rather listen to something calm in the evening." It adds more variety and personality to your speaking. Let's look at a short conversation where preferences are expressed naturally. One person says, "Do you want to watch a movie tonight?" The other replies, "Sure, but I'm not a big fan of horror films. I'd rather watch a comedy." The first person responds, "Good idea. I could use a laugh." This type of interaction uses fluent expressions and shows how everyday phrases help in real conversations. Now, when talking about the future, English speakers often use casual forms like "I'm gonna," "I'll probably," or "I'm planning to." These are short forms of "I'm going to" and "I will," which are commonly used in spoken English. For example, instead of saying "I will go to the market," it sounds more fluent to say "I'm gonna go to the market later." These are easy to practice and very helpful for sounding natural. Let's go through a practice dialogue about weekend plans. One person says, "What are you doing this weekend?" The other replies, "I'm going to visit my grandparents. We're planning to have a small family dinner." The first person responds, "Sounds lovely. I'll probably just relax at home." This example shows how future expressions can be casually used in friendly conversations. In many daily conversations, people also use softeners and fillers to make their speech flow better and sound more polite. Words like actually, kind of, you know, and I mean are not always necessary for meaning, but they help make speech more fluent. For example, you could say, "I kind of liked the movie, but it was too long." Or, "Actually, I thought the presentation was pretty good." These words give you a second to think and make the conversation sound more natural. Here's an example. One person says, "Did you enjoy the concert?" The other replies, "Yeah, it was fun, but the sound wasn't great." The first person responds, "I know, right? It kind of felt too loud." These small words help fill pauses and smooth out speech without sounding awkward. Let's shift focus to another common situation: shopping. When shopping, whether online or in store, you often use phrases like, "How much is this?" "Do you have this in a different size?" Or, "Can I try this on?" These are basic but very practical phrases. Instead of saying, "I want this," you can say, "I'll take this one," or "I'm looking for something casual." These expressions sound polite and are widely used in English-speaking countries. Here's a practice conversation between a customer and a store assistant. The customer says, "Hi, I'm looking for a jacket." "Something light for spring." The assistant responds, "Sure, we've got some new arrivals over here. What size are you looking for?" The customer replies, "Medium. Do you have it in navy blue?" The assistant says, "Yes, let me grab one for you." The customer ends with, "Perfect. I'll try it on." This short exchange demonstrates useful shopping phrases in a natural way. Another daily activity is ordering food. Whether you're at a restaurant or ordering online, phrases like, "Can I see the menu?" "I'll have the," and "Can we get the bill, please?" are very common. You might also hear casual expressions like, "What do you recommend?" or "This looks delicious." Knowing how to order food in fluent English can make your everyday experiences more comfortable and enjoyable. Here's a restaurant conversation for practice. The waiter says, "Good evening. Are you ready to order?" The customer replies, "Yes, I'll have the grilled chicken, please." "And could I get a lemonade with that?" The waiter asks, "Would you like any sides?" The customer answers, "Fries, please." "And could we get the bill when you have a moment?" This scenario gives you phrases you can use in any dining situation. One more common topic is transportation and giving directions. If you need help finding a place, you might ask, "How do I get to the nearest station?" Or, "Is this the right way to the museum?" You can also say things like, "Take the first left," "It's just around the corner," or "Keep going straight." These expressions are practical for travelers and city life. Let's go through a simple example. One person asks, "Excuse me, how do I get to the city library?" The other replies, "Go straight for 2 blocks, then take a right. It's next to the coffee shop." The first person responds, "Thank you." That's very helpful. These are small, useful exchanges you might have in real life. Now let's talk about how to make invitations or plans with others. Instead of just saying, "Do you want to come?" you could say, "Would you like to join us?" "How about grabbing lunch sometime?" Or, "Let's catch up this weekend." These sound friendly and are often used to make casual social plans. Here's a conversation example. One person says, "Hey, we're having a picnic on Sunday. Would you like to join us?" The other replies, "That sounds fun. What time?" The first person answers, "Around noon at Central Park." The response is, "Great, I'll bring some snacks." This is a typical way friends invite each other and make plans. When you're late or need to explain something politely, fluent speakers use expressions like, "Sorry, I'm running late," "I got stuck in traffic," or "I completely forgot." These phrases help you manage everyday situations with ease and maintain good communication. Let's practice. One person says, "Hey, you're late." The other responds, "Sorry, I got held up at work. The meeting ran over." The first person says, "No worries. We haven't ordered yet." The response is, "Great. I could really use a coffee." These common expressions make your English sound realistic and relaxed. It's also important to know how to respond to good or bad news. When someone shares good news, you can say, "That's awesome," "Congratulations," or "I'm so happy for you." If the news is sad or difficult, say, "I'm really sorry to hear that," or "That must be tough." These emotional expressions help you connect better with others. Try this example. One friend says, "I finally got the job." The other says, "That's awesome. I knew you'd get it." Another says, "Thanks. I'm starting next week." On the other hand, if someone says, "My pet is sick," the reply could be, "Oh no, I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope they feel better soon." These are the human touches that make language more than just words. Let's now explore expressions for talking about feelings and emotions. In everyday English, people don't always say, "I'm happy" or "I'm sad." More commonly, they use expressions like, "I'm feeling a bit down today," "I'm in a good mood," "That made my day," or "I'm so over the moon." These idiomatic phrases make conversations more expressive and engaging. For instance, someone might say, "I was feeling a bit off this morning, but after that walk, I'm much better now." Or, "You just made my day by showing up like this." Here's an example of a natural conversation between two friends. One says, "You look really cheerful today." The other responds, "Yeah, I'm in a great mood. I just got a message from an old friend I hadn't heard from in years." The first person replies, "That's so nice. It's always great to reconnect with someone from the past." This type of casual emotional expression helps people sound warm and relatable. Now, let's go over how people describe their daily routines in fluent English. When someone asks about your day, you might say, "I usually wake up around 7, grab a quick coffee, and head to work." Instead of simply saying, "I wake up at 7 and go to work," you can add softeners and linking words like "usually," "then," "after that," and "finally" to make your routine sound smoother. For example, after breakfast, I usually check my emails before I start my workday. Then, I have meetings until lunchtime. Here's a simple practice story. One person says, "What's your typical weekday like?" The other replies, "Well, I get up at 6:30, go for a short jog, then make some breakfast. After that, I work from home till about 5. Evenings are for relaxing, reading, or sometimes cooking something special." This type of storytelling gives your English a fluent and natural rhythm. Let's now talk about how to politely agree or disagree in English. Instead of just saying yes or no, you can use phrases like, "I totally agree," "That's a good point," or "I see where you're coming from, but I think." These expressions help you take part in discussions in a friendly and fluent way. For example, in a conversation, one person might say, I think online learning is more flexible than classroom learning. And the other could respond, I totally agree. It saves travel time and allows more comfort. Or they could say, I get your point, but I feel classroom learning keeps students more disciplined. Here's a real-life style dialogue. One person says, Don't you think city life is too fast-paced? The other responds, I see what you mean, but I like the energy. It keeps me motivated. The first person replies, Fair enough. I guess it depends on personality. This is a nice way to express opinions while keeping the tone respectful and fluent. Now let's look at how to make requests and offer help politely. In English, people often say things like, Could you help me with this? Would you mind giving me a hand? Or, Do you want me to take care of that? These phrases are used every day and make your speech sound more cooperative and courteous. For instance, at work, you might say, Would you mind sending that file by this afternoon? Or at home, you might offer, Do you want me to help you set the table? Let's practice with a short example. One person says, I'm struggling to carry all these bags. The other replies, Here, let me help you with that. The first responds, Thanks, I really appreciate it. This short, polite conversation shows helpful behavior with fluent language. Another important skill in speaking fluently is using small talk. Small talk includes short conversations that happen in daily life, such as when you meet someone in the elevator, at the store, or while waiting for a bus. Common topics include the weather, recent events, or simple compliments. You might say, Lovely weather today, isn't it? I like your jacket. Where did you get it? Or, Did you watch the game last night? These conversations may seem small, but help build comfort and fluency. Here's a small talk example. One person says, It's been raining all day. The other replies, Yeah, I didn't expect it. Looks like it's going to last all week. The first person responds, I hope not. I've got outdoor plans for the weekend. This exchange shows how to make friendly conversation without diving into serious topics. Let's move toward emergency or health-related situations. In real life, you might need to say, I'm not feeling well. I need to see a doctor. Or, There's been an accident. These phrases are important for expressing yourself in times of urgency. At a clinic, you might hear, What seems to be the problem? And reply with, I've had a headache since last night. Or, I'm having trouble breathing. These are essential expressions for safe communication. Here's a quick dialogue. One person says, You look pale. Are you okay? The other responds, I've got a bad stomach ache. I think I need to lie down. The first person offers, Should I call someone or get you some water? The second says, Yes, please, that would help. These simple but crucial sentences can make a big difference when you need help. Finally, let's cover the expressions used when ending a conversation or saying goodbye. You might say, It was nice talking to you. Let's catch up soon, or take care. Other common phrases include, I'll see you around, have a good one, or talk to you later. These expressions help wrap up conversations naturally and politely. Let's practice one last conversation. One person says, I've got to run now. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. The other replies, No problem. It was great chatting with you. The first person responds, Same here. Let's talk again soon. This is a soft, friendly way to end a chat. Now that you've been through all these useful phrases, dialogues, and practice examples, you're in a great place to start using them in your daily conversations. Speaking fluent English isn't about using big words. It's about using the right words naturally in the right situations. The more you practice with real-life examples and speak out loud, the more confident and fluent you'll become. Remember, daily repetition and speaking regularly, even to yourself, can speed up your fluency. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Each mistake is a step closer to mastering English. Keep listening, keep repeating, and try to use at least 5 new phrases every day. You'll see the difference within a few weeks. Stay consistent, and fluency will follow. Thanks for staying till the end of this lesson. You've just practiced hundreds of useful phrases and patterns for daily life English. Keep revisiting these examples and try to speak them out loud. The more you say them, the more they'll become a part of your natural speech. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss a daily English learning episode. Until next time, stay confident,